Yo, what's good, guys? It's Austin here, or Luna. Today's story time is definitely an interesting one. I think you guys are really going to enjoy it. If you do, leave a like on the video, and let's just get into this, man. So, today's story time all takes place back when I was in, I think, 8th grade. This was, maybe it was 7th, but I remember very vividly that it was middle school when this happened. And in middle school, I had a very easy life. The cool thing about middle school is as long as you're doing the work, you usually pass. Even if you get it wrong, as long as you're trying, they usually pass you along and, can succeed, right? So I wasn't really stressed out at the time about homework or about, school life and stuff like that. Things were going pretty easy for me. Now, the problem with things being so easy in middle school is I kind of had a little bit of an attitude, I won't lie. Like when I was in 7th, 8th grade, I was definitely a little bit of a shithead, I would say. Like when teachers would try and get me to do my work, I kind of had an attitude with them and I'd be real snarky. And that's just annoying. Nobody likes a kid that does that. Don't be an asshole. But my attitude got me into a situation, and that's what today's story time's about. I definitely wasn't the one in the wrong in this story after you hear what happens, but you'll hear more. So, today's story time all starts off as a regular day in middle school. I'm sitting in my room, just waking up in the morning, getting ready for school, getting dressed, just doing my thing, right? I get ready for school, I get on the bus, I go to school, and I get through my first few periods with really no problem. Then I get to my 4th period. I hated 4th period for many reasons. One, it was social studies, and I didn't like social studies. I also had a really shitty teacher, and he was just really, really mean to everybody, and I think that's why I didn't like social studies. I really don't have a problem with any subject in school in terms of, paying attention. It just all depends on the teacher, you know what I mean? If I have a good teacher teaching me something, I'll pay attention to anything, as long as they're making it interesting. But I didn't have an interesting teacher at social studies. I had this fucking absolute toe who would sit up front and be like, "Turn to page 18 in your books, please. I'm fucking miserable." I kind of sound like Critical. I'm not making fun of Critical, I promise. But yeah, he was just this absolute toe, this absolute fucking fungusy toe that would sit up front, read out of a textbook, and be rude to his students. I remember one time a girl came in late because her dog died. I'm not even exaggerating. Her parents called her while she was in school and told her that her dog got sick and passed away. In school, she got this phone call. So she was a mess. She was crying. She was sad. And she came to social studies late because she was in the hallway crying her eyes out. And she came into class crying, and the teacher was like, "No excuse, get in your seat. I'm taking points off for you today." He was just being a dick. Anyway, you get the point, right? My social studies teacher was just an absolute fucking dickhead. So, this all starts off as a regular class, right? I get to social studies on this day. I go into class. I sit down. And he's just reading out of his textbook. And I'm just sitting there in the back, just, doing my work. And I get a text message on my phone. It was from my mom. My mom usually wouldn't text me while I was in school, but me and her had an argument on this morning. When I was getting ready for school, I was late, and she was yelling at me, and I was yelling at her back. And we got into an argument, right? And she sent me a message while I was at school just basically saying sorry for the argument this morning, and that she'll see me when I'm home for dinner. And I replied to it. I said thank you, and I told her sorry as well. And as I was replying to it, my teacher yells at me. He goes, "Austin, put the phone down or I'm taking it." Now, I had already sent the text message, so I put my phone back in my pocket. And I thought he would go back to his lesson, but he goes, "Austin, do you want to succeed in life?" And me being an ignorant little middle schooler with a huge attitude, I was pissed off. He made the whole class look at me. He was putting all this attention on me. So being the shithead that I was, I just replied to him and said no. And he goes, "What do you mean no?" And I told him I didn't want to be successful and I wanted to grow up working at McDonald's. And he goes, "Sounds about right." And I go, "Yeah, well, it's better than what you do." And he goes, "Trust me, Austin, it's not." And I go, "Oh, let's see. I could flip burgers for minimum wage and make near nothing my whole life. Or I can become a teacher like you. And the teacher part's not the problem, but the part where you shit all over your students all day. Yeah, I'd rather take McDonald's." And he did not like that. Mr. Toe was not happy about that whatsoever. He proceeds to throw his textbook down on the desk, slams it down, runs over to me, literally jogs over to my desk, and stands over me and goes, "You got something to say, buddy? Say it to my face." And I was like, "I just said it to your face. Want me to say it again? You're a dick to your students. I'd rather work at McDonald's than be you." And everybody in the whole room is just silent. They're all staring at me, staring at him, wondering what's going to happen next, right? And my teacher, Mr. Toe, hesitates for a second, and then he just snaps. I don't know what changed, but He swipes all of my stuff off my desk, just all over the floor, everywhere. My backpack, my folders, everything was all over the floor. And he goes, pick it up. And I go, you're the one that knocked everything over. I think you should pick it up. And he goes, pick it up, Austin, now. And I go, nah, I'm good. And I sit down. And he grabs me by my shirt and lifts me up onto my feet. And he goes, stand up and clean up your mess now, or you're going to the main office. To which I grab his hand and throw it off me, and I go, don't put your fucking hands on me, please. And he goes, oh yeah? And he pushes me. And my friend Nate stands up, the same Nate from yesterday's story time. He stands up and he's like, yo, you can't fucking do that. Are you stupid? You can't touch a student. And he pushes the teacher away from me. And then the teacher pushes Nate. And Nate proceeds to trip over a chair and fall onto his face. And when I see this, I don't know, I just lost it, man. I was so pissed off. This dude was just overstepping his power so hard. So I picked up a textbook out of my backpack and I threw it at the teacher as hard as I could. And it hit Mr. Egg right in the fucking shoulder. That shit made contact real hard. I could tell it hurt by his face. And guess what happens next? This motherfucker swings at me. Yeah, bro, he comes at me wide swinging. Keep in mind, I'm a fucking little kid pretty much. I'm not like, a baby by any means. But like, I was not done with puberty, bro. I was a middle schooler. So he had a little bit more reach than I did. So I jump back and I miss one of his punches. He swings again. Luckily, the second punch was like an open hand. So he hits me on the shoulder and it didn't hurt that bad. It was nothing crazy. But he still hit me, which blows my mind. And a bunch of students jumped up. Like a bunch of girls, boys, all jumped up and broke it up. Like usually the students aren't the ones breaking up fights. Usually it's the teachers. But for once, it was like the roles were reversed, bro. The students were fucking breaking up a fight with the teacher. So they break it up. I wasn't hurt or anything. I was fine. I actually think that I did more damage than he did. Like, I think my textbook hitting him in the shoulder hurt more than his open hand, like, little punch he did. It was barely anything. It was like a slap. But what ends up happening is the students run upstairs, the ones that didn't break up the fight. They run upstairs and they snitch to the principal about what happened. And me, my teacher, Nate, a few other students from the classroom as well, all got called up to share their sides of the story. And after everyone went up there and shared, my principal fired my teacher immediately. Also, the cops got called while I was in the office, and I had to talk to them. And I believe the school filed a restraining order on this teacher, so he couldn't even come back to the school at all under any circumstances. So that's crazy. I don't know if it was the school that filed it or my principal, but he wasn't allowed back at the school, right? Now, yeah, he lost his job. He didn't get any criminal charges because me and my mom both agreed just not to. There was no fucking need. As much as we didn't agree with what he did, it would have been a very lengthy and annoying process to press charges on this dude, so we didn't. Him losing his job and not being able to teach anymore was more than enough. Don't get me wrong, though. If he landed a punch and knocked a few teeth out, I probably would have pressed charges. Don't get me wrong. I'll admit it. My attitude definitely didn't help, and my attitude probably is what, got him upset in the first place. But I don't care how much of an attitude a kid has with you. You can't put your hands on a kid just because they're talking back to you as a teacher. That's not cool. To put it simply, this dude was not acting in self-defense in the slightest. He put his hands on me first. But yeah, guys, all in all, everybody was okay. No one got seriously hurt, and it could have gone a lot worse, so I'm glad that it didn't. But it still was pretty fucking bad, and I thought it was a crazy story. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, please leave a like on the video. I'd really appreciate it. Feel free to leave your story times in the comments down below, and subscribe if you're new. I'll see you all later. Peace. No, it won't change. Try to show love, you a fake ass bitch. If you wanna pull up, we can fade that shit. Look, don't touch, yeah, I hate that shit. Heard you got a new song, never played that shit.